The affair of the LSE Libya links refers to the various connections that existed between the London School of Economics and Political Science and the Libyan government and its leader Muammar Gaddafi and his son Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. The NGO Gaddafi Foundation pledged to donate £1.5 million over 5 years to a research centre, LSE Global Governance, of which £300,000 were paid. In addition, LSE Enterprise established a contract worth £2.2 million to train Libyan officials. In 2008, the LSE granted a PhD degree to Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of the Libyan leader, for a dissertation. Currently, allegations circulate that Gaddafi's thesis was ghostwritten and/or plagiarized. In December 2010, Muammar Gaddafi addressed members of the school in a video link-up where he was addressed as brother leader and received an LSE cap previously given to Nelson Mandela. In connection with the civil uprising in Libya in February and March 2011, the links between LSE and the Gaddafi regime, and the conduct of individual members of LSE's staff, came increasingly to be questioned. As a result of the revelations, the LSE's director, Sir Howard Davies, resigned on 3 March 2011, citing errors of judgment. In a New York Times op-ed piece on 7 March 2011, Roger Cohen wrote, in reference to events that had transpired at the school, "It may be possible to sink to greater depths, but right now I can't think how. The Arab Spring is also a Western winter. How did we use and encourage the brutality of Arab dictators over so many years? To what degree did that cynical encouragement of despots foster the very jihadist rage Western societies sought to curb?" LSE and the Monitor Group. In 2004, Libya's government engaged Monitor Group, a Boston-based, Harvard-linked consultancy firm founded by Harvard Business School professor Mark Fuller, as advisors on matters of public relations. According to leaked documents, Monitor Group received £2 million in order to enhance international understanding and appreciation of Libya and the contribution it has made and may continue to make to its region and to the world. Quote, "In addition, the goal is to introduce Muammar Gaddafi as a thinker and intellectual, independent of his more widely known and very public persona as the leader of the revolution in Libya." A number of Harvard University academics were active within Monitor. One way to achieve this aim was to recruit prominent journalists and intellectuals who were prepared to travel to Libya and write in positive terms about the country. One prime target was academics associated with the LSE, such as Professor Anthony Giddens. In 2006 and 2007, the company organized 2 trips to Libya for Giddens when the former LSE director met with Muammar Gaddafi. Giddens has declined to comment on the financial compensation he received on these occasions. Giddens' first visit to Libya resulted in articles in the New Statesman, El País and La Repubblica, where he argued that Libya had been transformed. In the New Statesman he wrote, "Gaddafi's conversion may have been driven partly by the wish to escape sanctions, but I get the strong sense it is authentic and there is a lot of motive power behind it. Saif Gaddafi is a driving force behind the rehabilitation and potential modernization of Libya." Gaddafi Sr., however, is authorizing these processes. During the second visit, Monitor Group organized a panel of 3 thinkers, Giddens, Gaddafi, and Benjamin Barber, emeritus professor of Rutgers University, author of the book Jihad vs. McQueld, chaired by the veteran journalist Sir David Frost. Returning from Libya, Giddens wrote about his chat with the colonel in The Guardian, concluding that, if Gaddafi is sincere about reform, as I think he is, Libya could end up as the Norway of North Africa. LSE grants PhD degree to Saif Gaddafi. In 2008, Muammar Gaddafi's son, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, received a PhD from the Department of Philosophy at the LSE with a dissertation entitled "The Role of Civil Society in the Democratization of Global Governance Institutions, from Soft Power to Collective Decision-Making." His supervisor was Nancy Cartwright, a distinguished philosopher of science, and Alex Voorhoeve, a political philosopher, advised on Chapter 4 and the first half of Chapter 5. In the text, David Held is acknowledged as having directly advised the work. One of the two examiners, Lord Meghnad Desai, the founder of LSE Global Governance, had retired from LSE in 2003 and in 2007 was requested by the University of London to examine the thesis of Saif Gaddafi. The external examiner, Anthony McGrew, has collaborated with David Held on 7 jointly written co-edited books. There is some confusion regarding when the degree itself was awarded. The preface of the dissertation says it was submitted in September 2007. An LSE press office statement says that the PhD was awarded in 2008, but David Held is on record as saying Saif Gaddafi received his PhD for the LSE in 2009. What is clear, however, is that the examiners raised concerns at the time of the viva which required revisions to be made and the dissertation to be resubmitted. In the acknowledgements, Gaddafi thanks a number of individuals at Monitor Group with whom I worked to design and conduct the NGO survey which provides empirical data for this thesis. This team consisted of Libyan and foreign academics, led by Professor Omran Bukkers, and included Bruce J. Allen and Flora Rose, a Cambridge graduate who works for the Leader of the House of Lords. When questioned, Monitor Group admitted to having contributed to the dissertation and acknowledged that such assistance had been a mistake. Our aim, they said, had been to help the Gaddafi regime bring about change. The exact extent of the help provided by the team from Monitor Group is not established, and neither is it clear whether the contribution is in accordance with the rules of the University of London. In addition, it has been claimed that parts of the dissertation have been plagiarized. We read the thesis and examined Mr. Gaddafi orally for 2.5 hours, Meghnad Desai commented. At no stage did the supervisors or anyone else suggest to us that plagiarism was suspected, and we found no reason to do so ourselves. Quote, "I can hardly be confident that nobody else helped him," said Nancy Cartwright, "since there's evidence that he lifted bits. But I'm confident that it isn't in the sense done by anybody else start to finish." Quote, "We take these accusations seriously, of course," said Voorhoeve, "like any accusations of plagiarism. The claims of plagiarism are to be investigated by the LSE." According to John Christensen, who independently tutored Gaddafi in economics, Saif lacked the intellectual depth to study at that level, and showed no willingness to read, let alone do coursework. Gaddafi donates money to LSE's North Africa program, even before Gaddafi had been examined for his PhD, according to a senior LSE source. The pro-directors of the school were anticipating the solicitation of a donation. However, no factual evidence has been produced to support this allegation. The money eventually arrived in June 2009 when the LSE Council accepted a £1.5 million donation from the Gaddafi International Charity and Development Foundation, of which Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was the chairman. This is, said an LSE press release, a generous donation from an NGO committed to the promotion of civil society and the development of democracy. The donation was used to create a North Africa program which would place Libya within the wider context of the region, and over time narrow its focus to the specific issues and challenges facing Libya. Quote, George Jot. a senior fellow of the Center of International Studies at Cambridge University, was hired as academic advisor to the North Africa program. Professor Joff was Ali Abrahimi's thesis examiner. According to a leaked internal memo, Gaddafi had a direct influence over the research activities of the North Africa program. In July 2010, Brahimi met with Gaddafi in Libya and in Greece to talk over objectives and expectations, and to agree upon topics for workshops. The memo says that the program will work with and consult the Gaddafi Foundation on all aspects of the program. In addition, the program commissions scholars to write papers on various topics relating to North Africa, in return for fees from £5,000 to £10,000. LSE planned to train Libya's future elite. The Times reported on 3 March 2011 that the LSE had secured a £2.2 million deal to train hundreds of members of Libya's elite. The school agreed to bring 400 future leaders from Libya for training in leadership and management, with an additional 250 people due to be trained in Libya itself. The private commercial arrangement was made by Gaddafi. According to WikiLeaks, American diplomats were told in September 2009 by Libya's National Economic Development Board that they were cooperating with the UK government and the London School of Economics, among other UK institutions, on an exchange program to send 400 people to London for leadership and management training. Professor Francis Derry, Department of Public Management, was academic director for the Libya program, and Julius Sen LSE Enterprise, the co-director. Professor Terry described his involvement as a very stimulating experience. Quote, according to press reports, references to the program on LSE's website have subsequently been removed. Fred Halliday, a dissenting note. On 4 October 2009, Fred Halliday, Emeritus Professor of International Relations at the LSE and the school's leading expert on the Middle East, wrote a memorandum to the LSE Council regarding the proposed cooperation with the Gaddafi Foundation. I have repeatedly expressed reservations about formal educational and funding links with the country, while those in favor of accepting the donation argued that Libya is changing internally. Most informed observers agree that while some of the worst successes for the moment have ceased, the rights of its people are badly protected. Libya remains a country run by a secretive, or erratic and corrupt elite. Since 9/11, the Libyan government has reached compromises with the West on a number of issues, notably the Lockerbie bombing and nuclear weapons. Yet tactical changes in foreign policy are not sufficient for the purposes of evaluating political and academic links. There are also ways in which Libyan foreign policy has not changed. The country continues to call for the destruction of Israel. Muammar Gaddafi recently called for the abolition of Switzerland, and he received the leader of the Somali pirates operating off the Horn of Africa as honor guests of state. Moreover, Libya's handling of the Lockerbie bombing has not been characterized by either consistency or clarity. I have in the past, Halliday noted, defended accepting grants from authoritarian regimes such as the Gulf states, but there should be clear limits on this, depending on the degree of political and human rights abuses perpetrated with them and on their ongoing foreign policy conduct. Whitehall and the city are now happy to do business with Libya, but it does not follow that the LSE should do the same. Responsible leaders throughout the Middle East continue to express reservations regarding Libya, including its more prominent liberal representatives. We must remember, Halliday concluded, that the liberal wing within a regime such as Libya does not have the function of producing change, but its role is instead to reach compromises with internal hardliners that serve to lessen external pressure. A good case in point of the proposals LSE now is considering. It is, as LSE alumni in positions of responsibility in the region caution, far too early for the school to take this step. Human Rights Watch criticism. In 2009, Human Rights Watch was allowed entry to Libya via Saif al-Islam Gaddafi's non-profit organization in order to gather facts about the human rights situation there. While HRW reported that there were concerns about the repressive atmosphere, they felt there were signs of improvement, and Sarah Leah Whitson, director of HRW's Middle East division, said that one should not underestimate the importance of the efforts made so far by Gaddafi in the realm of human rights in Libya. She also wrote of her official visit that the real impetus for the transformation rests squarely with a quasi-governmental organization, the Gaddafi Foundation for International Charities and Development, chaired by Gaddafi. She praised Gaddafi for establishing the country's two semi-private newspapers, and said, "It is impossible to underestimate the importance of the efforts made so far. Let's hope this spring will last." In January 2011, HRW criticized other organizations as well as governments that had previously dealt with Gaddafi. HRW Business and Human Rights Director Arvind Gainson condemned the London School of Economics for allowing abusive and corrupt officials of their families to launder their images in exchange for money. This was later followed by Gainson saying that the London School of Economics did not act until Saif al-Islam's father literally began to kill his own people, according to NGO Monitor. This was despite the fact that David Held, co-director of LSE Global Governance, was partially influenced by Whitson's remarks regarding her Libyan visit, referring to Saif al-Islam Gaddafi as a reformer. In February 2011, HRW's Whitson admitted that Saif Islam in fact abandoned his nascent reform agenda long before LSE, Libya and BP. Peter Dennis Sutherland, formerly Attorney General of Ireland, European Commissioner, and head of the World Trade Organization, finished a 13-year stint as chairman of BP, Europe's largest oil company, in early 2010. In spring 2006 he was appointed chair of London School of Economics Governors commencing in 2008. At the LSE Council meeting in 2009, Peter Sutherland declared a conflict of interest when the Council decided to accept £1.5 million from a charity headed by Muammar Gaddafi. Sutherland's conflict was that BP had signed an oil deal with Libya 2 years previously, at a time when Sutherland was chairman of the British oil giant. LSE records show Sutherland took no further role in that part of the June 2009 meeting. Saif Gaddafi's Ralph Miliband lecture. On the 25th of May 2010, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi gave a Ralph Miliband lecture at the LSE, named after Ralph Miliband, a Marxist scholar and former LSE lecturer. Gaddafi spoke on the topic of Libya, past, present, and future. Quote, in introducing the speaker, Professor David Held told the audience that, "I have come to know him very well and I must say I have come to like him a great deal." Quote, he continued, Saif is committed to resolving contentious international and domestic issues through dialogue, debate and peaceful negotiations. Within his own country, Saif has spearheaded efforts to open with Islamic militants about the nature and form of the struggle in order to find ways of bringing them back into the political process. His success was based on the use of the language of soft power, that is, the language of dialogue. Throughout this time I've come to know Saif as someone who looks to democracy, civil society and deep liberal values for the core of his inspiration. Held went on to say that he had many tutorials with Saif and that throughout ongoing dialogue on a range of issues they came to agree on some, and to disagree on much. On the evening of the lecture, a fight broke out between anti-Gaddafi protesters and pro-Gaddafi supporters. The police were eventually called in to break up the altercation. In a comment on 6 March 2011, David Miliband, Ralph Miliband's elder son and a former UK Foreign Secretary, was critical of the LSE's decision to invite Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. The Ralph Miliband program at the LSE was founded by a former student of my dad's. The idea of Saif Gaddafi giving a lecture under his name is just horrific to him and horrific to the whole family obviously. There were approximately 30 to 40 journalists at the event. However, reports on the lecture were largely uncritical and did not raise the issues surrounding the LSE engagement with Libya. David Miliband continued his own association with LSE, giving a lecture at LSE on 8 March, 2 days after the above comments, where he made reference to the school's early history of economic liberalism combined with social justice. An open letter by Professor John Keane asks Professor David Held to explain further his links with Libya and to reconsider his reactions. Professor Keane raises several questions, such as, has the LSE Libya affair not done damage to the scholarly credibility of research programs in the area of democracy? Click here. Keane's letter was heavily criticized by those who responded to it in the online magazine in which it was published. Many argued that it was vindictive and overblown. An overview of Halliday and Held, who were both contributors to Open Democracy, with respect to the affair and the larger implications for the independence of UK universities, was published by its former editor Fred Halliday. David Held, the LSE and the independence of universities. In October 2011, Held resigned from his post at the LSE in advance of the publication an independent report into the LSE's links with Libya. David Held issued a personal statement in reaction to the allegations, saying that, in many discussions and meetings I encouraged the development of reform agenda and subsequently sought to support it through research on the North Africa program funded by the Gaddafi International Charity and Development Foundation at the LSE. In October 2011, Held resigned from his post at the LSE. The Wolf report examined links between the LSE and the Libyan regime. The inquiry report says it was Professor Held who first approached Saif about the possibility of funding his Center for Global Governance in December 2008. This was after the dictator's son had been awarded his PhD by the LSE but before the formal graduation ceremony. The gift offered was of £1.5 million in tranches of £300,000 over a 5-year period. Periodic payments were to be made annually. The report says, this was not a one-off donation but the founding of a relationship between the school and the donor, which is not unusual. However, bearing in mind the volatility of the Gaddafi regime, the gift involved a substantial risk because of the length of the relationship. A decision was made that the gift would not come from Saif directly but from private sector sources. This step became essential to Professor Held's presentation of the gift. Unless the money could be shown as coming to the foundation from private sources, it could have been seen as unacceptable money from the Libyan state. Wolf writes, I come to no conclusions as to whether there was or would have been excessive influence by the donor over the use of the funds from Saif's foundation. However, what has been made plain is that proper structures of governance are needed to protect academic integrity against influence from the interests of private donors. The funding was accepted despite internal protests. Fred Halliday, a distinguished Middle East expert at the LSE before his death, criticized the donation in a letter that described the country's rulers as a secretive, erratic and corrupt elite. Held was appointed to the board of the Gaddafi Foundation on 28 June 2009, a few days after the gift was discussed and accepted by the university's governing body. Held subsequently resigned from the charity on the LSE Council's advice. Despite institutional and procedural criticism, the Wolf Report, however, exonerated LSE staff, stating that they acted in what they believed to be the best interests of the school. Questions remain, however, about the involvement of elite British academics at the LSE with the Gaddafi regime. LSE's video link up with Gaddafi. On the 2nd of December 2010, in a video link conference hosted by the LSE of LSE Global Governance, introduced Muammar Gaddafi as brother leader, and referred to him as the world's longest-serving national leader. I will be chairing this on behalf of Howard Davis, the LSE's director, who unfortunately couldn't make it this evening, but who sends the following message: "You are most welcome here, Colonel Gaddafi. We wish you had been able to deliver some Libyan weather at the same time." This is the message from Howard Davis. "We are pleased to be asked to train Libya officials, and we hope the relationship will continue." Gaddafi used the occasion to denounce the Lockerbie bombing as a fabrication and creation of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, and revealed that the Libyan national Abdelbasset al-Megrahi, who was convicted of the bombing and imprisoned in Scotland in 2001, but returned to Libya in 2009 on health grounds, was preparing a multi-million-pound compensation claim against Britain for false imprisonment and medical neglect. At the end of the lecture, Muammar Gaddafi was given a black baseball cap bearing the bright red LSE logo. "You're in good company," he was assured. Mandela, Kofi Annan and Bill Clinton also have them. Saif Gaddafi's "Rivers of Blood" speech. On the 20th of February 2011, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi delivered an address to the nation on Libyan state television, stating that if no agreement could be found between protesters and the government, thousands of deaths and rivers of blood will run through Libya. He also insisted that his father remained in charge with the army's backing and would fight until the last man, the last woman, the last bullet. On the 28th of February 2011, CBS News showed a clip of Gaddafi addressing a group of supporters in Tripoli, holding a Heckler & Koch G36 assault rifle in the air. He told the crowd that weapons are on the way. A day earlier, Gaddafi had told Christiane Amanpour in an exclusive interview for ABC News that the Libyan government didn't use force to stay in power, and asked her to show him a single attack, a single bomb, a single casualty. On the 5th of March 2011, he told CNN's Nick Robertson in an interview that his family won't step down. "I'm the government. If we would hold tomorrow election, my father would win with a big majority." Saif further told CNN that the world should not worry about the 200, 300, even 1,000 militia, because now everybody is armed in Libya. Quote, in an interview with Benjamin Harvey from Bloomberg on the 8th of March, Gaddafi said that the crisis in Libya was a passing cloud. "This is an historic opportunity for Libya to become a first-class democratic state." The contrast between his appearance in Tripoli in 2011 and his appearance as a guest speaker at LSE, said the BBC, could not have been more stark.